stories in general and plays in general are really good at storytelling if done correctly. You sit there and you watch a story unfold, and yes, it'll scare you, but it's all in a controlled environment.
Welcome back to Modern Horror Stories podcast with Jamie, Dave, and no Alex today. We have a special guest from GrimFest, which is going to be taking place in October at the Old Red Lion.
The Old Red Lion Theatre in Angel, Islington.
Fab. And Jack, you think you're kind of like the main guy behind this. Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself and the festival?
My name's Jack Robertson. I'm the artistic director of the Old Red Lion Theatre, and I'm one of the producers of GrimFest, which is now in its third year. This is our third year running festival. It sort of fell in as a bit of a stopgap, really, in the market, because the London Horror Festival, which I'd previously taken part in, had gone on hiatus, and we had a bit of spare time at the Old Red Lion Theatre. So we showed it full of lots of different companies doing horror shows.
Fantastic. What drew you towards doing horror in the theatre? Because James and I have done that, and it's not so common.
No, it's not common, but it turns out to be incredibly popular because it's a very popular genre, both in film and on stage. The longest running show in London's West End, longest running play after The Mousetrap, which is, a thriller and a murder mystery, was The Woman in Black, which ran for over 30 years. So it's a very popular genre, and luckily the Old Red Lion is a very haunted pub, and the theatre itself has this really kind of unsettling atmosphere in it. So it's perfect, we think, for doing these sort of darker plays. And, it's called GrimFest because it's kind of trying to get a bit of a wider umbrella. So not just out and out horror, but horror itself is a very wide ranging genre, but we wanted to also extend it to other things, all things that we just considered grim, and a little bit alternative and unusual and different, and erring on the spooky side as well.
I think you're right. Horror is quite a broad church. James and I went to Fright Fest at the end of August, and that Horror Fest film festival is full of a real diverse selection of films for all sorts of tastes. Do you have a show in this year's festival?
Yeah, my company, Medium Rare Productions, we're doing a play called Pilgrimage, which I am writing, have written, will write soon. And it's called Pilgrimage, and it's set in a very strange little house in Norfolk that's in the middle of nowhere. And it's sort of a play about people trying to investigate an allegedly haunted house, which has recently been the subject of a famous global, worldwide, famous podcast about a sort of historic haunting that took place there about 20 years ago. So it's this fictional podcast that has got a lot of attention surrounding this particular old cottage. And then two young kind of paranormal investigators kind of chance their luck. They want to sort of get into this house, meet the current owners who don't really believe in ghosts. And they want to try and investigate and find out what's happening there, whether there are any ghosts in the property, but there might be a lot more going on in this house than they initially think. So it's this year, we're going for, all out horror. A lot of our previous stuff for Medium Rare Productions has been sort of homage and parody and spoof, whereas this time we're going for a kind of more original concept, and we're going for a bit more balls to the wall, actual horror. We're not parodying anything. We're trying to get actual scares out of people with this one, if we can.
That's really exciting. I hope to get scared. Come and see it and get scared.
I hope so.
As you say, the Old Red Lion is a great setting for building that kind of atmosphere and the fear. It's a really great space for anyone who doesn't know it.
Yeah, it's really great, and it's got such an amazing history. And yeah, if you sit in that room in the dark in a theatre for long enough, you're going to get, you're going to start feeling a bit unnerved.
Have you experienced any hauntings there?
There's been moments where I felt a bit unsettled when I've been on my own, but I think that could happen anywhere really. But I think it gets in your head and you when you're in there and it's dark, you start to question yourself a little bit. I've not seen or really felt anything truly disturbing personally, but I know that the landlord of the pub downstairs has witnessed chairs being thrown around the bar when there's not actual punters in there. So yeah, it's definitely got some activity going on.
So you mentioned you're hoping to get some real scares in this particular production, which is something we've tried to do. It's difficult on the stage. What's your process for kind of putting something like that together?
Well, I think really it's the power of suggestion. People's imagination fill in a lot of the blanks. And theatre is a place of imagination. Film is a lot more practical. You can show a lot more, but the best horror films don't show you things, because when you're sat there and you're kind of got your own head and your own imagination, just the power of a few words, suggestions or thoughts can really start to unnerve a person. So rather than going for something quite practical, even just like the implications of certain things can make people feel scared. And it's a slow build of tension, especially with this play. It's all set in one location and it's kind of played out in real time. So it's all about building the suspense and getting people into a frame of mind where they are going to be prone to the slightest shock or jump or twist in the story that's really going to, hopefully, if they've invested in the story itself from the beginning, it will really pay off when something jumps up out of nowhere or something changes and they're suddenly in a state of shock.
How involved were you in selecting all the performances for this year?
I mean, luckily, we pretty much tried to take on as many companies as possible. This is our biggest festival so far. We're doing the entire month from the 1st to the 31st of October. So it's longer than we've ever had. And we've had more applicants than ever before. And we did try our best to get everyone in. There's a few companies we had to sadly say no to, just mostly because we didn't know whether they quite fit the bill of the festival more than anything else. So we tried to get a hold of as many companies as possible. And there's just been, luckily, we've just had a lot of very good applicants, and the shows are really starting to shape up now. We can see their advertisements, we can see their poster images, and I spoke to the companies all personally, and it looks like they're going to be some really interesting and different shows. So I'm really happy with what we selected, Nina and I. But we basically wanted to bring as many as different people in as possible this year.
Dave and I had a look through the lineup, and as you said, there's a huge variety. There's carnival. There's something that looks like it might be out in the 1950s. There's one-person shows. There's plays. There's all sorts you've got on the bill. Yeah, it's a really exciting mix.
Yeah, there's a couple of there's two different shows that got a very interesting sort of choose your own adventure element. They're very interactive. You've got Benjamin's Night School, which is a sort of strange video game style setup where the audience get to choose what's going to happen next on stage. And there's also Imprisoned with the Pharaohs, who are also sort of recreating this story that was created, I think, in partly with Harry Houdini. So it's a historical text that they brought back to life, and it's another kind of interactive show where they're trying to, I think the audience are trying to evade being killed by an Egyptian mummy. I mean, again, it sounds bonkers, and I can't wait to sort of see how these things play out. Yeah, we've got some cabaret in there as well. A lot of kind of ghost stories. I think compared to last year, for example, we've actually got a lot more shows that are going for more thrills and terror than actual comedy. We had quite a lot of comical, dark horror last year. We've still got a bit of that this year, but we've got maybe a little bit less. And it looks like people are going for actual. We're ready to be scared again, I think. We're ready to get properly unnerved.
I mean, as James just said, we went through the whole list. How many shows do you have?
I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I think it's at least 20 different productions. We've also got our horrible quiz, which we're actually doing Sunday the 6th of October. So if you want to come to our pub and just sit in the pub and answer a bunch of questions on horror films or stories, come along to that. That'll be lots of fun as well. You can win the chance to win some free theatre tickets and come see one of the GrimFest shows for free. But yeah, largely it's all these different events. going on, all these different theatre shows, some classic horror in there, some based on classic literature, and there was stuff right up into the modern day. We've got the Blair Bitch Project, which is a sort of take on the found footage and the lost people lost in the woods. I'm not really sure what to expect from some of the shows, and I just can't wait to see what comes out of them, because the premise of the kind of story they're telling me so far just gets me very excited about what's going to actually happen on that stage. And it's just great to see that venue in such a short amount of time take on so many different stories and adventures and different kind of things that people will bring to that venue.
Yeah, it's fantastic you're doing this, because you're right. The London Horror Festival seems to have disappeared. I look at their website every year to see if they're coming back. And so you filled that gap really well. And it's great that you've expanded to the whole month this year. If you were to, I know this year, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit and say, if you were just going to see 3 shows, and like I said, we've been down the list, and I think on any given night, there's 1 or 2 shows that all look worth visiting. Which do you think might be the 3 surprises that you would take a chance with?
Well, one of the ones that really catches my eye and really ticks a lot of my boxes, I've come back to theatre really via sketch comedy, which I used to do for a long time. And so I love, and that's kind of how we started getting into horror and the London Horror Festival. We actually came and performed at the Old Red Line in 2018 with our show Mistress to the Midnight, which was a sort of spoof of the sort of 1960s hammer horror films. And we loved all of that kind of genre of horror, the classic Technicolor blood. So we love a kind of slightly spoofy version of those kind of old school horrors. And I think we're going to get that with a show called Dracula Undead Air. So that's coming on the 28th and 29th of October. It's set in the 1930s, I believe, and it's a bit like, so they're doing a radio broadcast of a radio play version of the story of Dracula, but all the cast have mysteriously disappeared, I believe. And so it's left down to the Foley artist and a sort of kind of unwanted actress, and they're going to do it all themselves. So it's a radio play of Dracula, but you're sort of seeing it live and then making all the sound effects, which is another amazing little addition to the stage craft that they're creating. They're not just telling you Dracula, they're letting, again, your imagination fill in all of the blanks. And you're getting to see kind of behind the curtain of a radio production. It just sounds great. It's got a lot in common with things like the stage version of the 39 Steps. So I'm looking forward to that kind of mix of horror and comedy. And so, yeah, that's Dracula Undead Air. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm also going to have to mention, just because they're very, very good friends of mine and I can't wait to see the show, I'm going to see The Even Stranger Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is performed by Fox and Bird, Peter Fox and Grace Hussey Bird. It's a 2-woman production of this classic, very unusual, obviously, Victorian novella of Jekyll and Hyde. Everyone sort of seems to know the story. I think the original novel is quite unusual and quite mad in some places. And I think they're really delving into that weirdness of the original novel, and they're going to bring it out in a kind of fun, dark, and interesting way. So I'm definitely going to have to see those guys. And then the third show is Dangerous to Know, which is, again, very intriguing. Again, it's showing my love of the classical stuff. But it's a story about Claire Claremont, who was the former mistress of Lord Byron, the famous poet, who in this play seems to have come back from the dead. And with the help of Mary Shelley, Claire Claremont is going to come and uncover the truth behind the empty grave of Lord Byron. And it sounds just really intriguing, and the company seemed great. So another really story I just couldn't avoid going to watch, really, if I wanted to. So definitely those 3. But again, I don't get in trouble for not saying anyone's show, but they all sound brilliant. So yeah, I'll be watching everything. Spending a lot of time sat in that theatre.
Fantastic. And you've got an opening on is it the 1st?
Yeah, so this coming up Tuesday, the 1st of October, we're having our launch party. So we're just having a little sort of mini showcase in the theatre where you get to come and meet me and Nina, who run the festival. That's Nina Atesh from Pither Productions. She's also doing a play reading during the festival of her playing The Hollow Ice in a double bill. So yeah, you can come and hear that latest play as it's kind of in its early stages, primordial stages. But the showcase on Tuesday the 1st, we'll be introducing the festival, and we'll have some excerpts from some of the upcoming shows. So you can go and have a little taste of all the shows coming up. And we've got a few extra special guests as well who are coming along, who've done GrimFest previously. And so, yeah, it's going to be quite a fun night. That's a little hour-long showcase. Plus, then we'll have a big networking gig in the pub downstairs, a few drinks, a few snacks, get to talk to everyone. So, yeah, if you want to have a little taste menu of what's to come, you can pop along to see the GrimFest launch party on the 1st of October. It's a nice way to just see what's coming up and then see which shows you'd like to come and see.
Why do you think people are drawn to things that scare them? If I'm not expecting you to necessarily have an answer, but but if you do have a theory of why,
I think it's a little bit of control, really, because stories in general encapsulate things, or they give order to chaos, and our lives generally are chaotic. Nothing really makes much sense. We're going from lurching from one thing to the next. It's the same reason we like comedy. There's a structure, and you set things up, and then there's a release of tension, and laughter is releasing tension. Same in like a horror show. It's very similar to getting on a roller coaster. You know, build up tension, and then it's released, and you feel much better afterwards. And I think stories in general and plays in general are really good at storytelling if done correctly. You sit there and you watch a story unfold, and yes, it'll scare you and it'll release a lot of tensions, but it's all in a controlled environment. And I think the benefit of seeing horror theatre maybe over a horror film is that, you know, you are trapped in that room with these people and everything's happening in front of you and there's no escape, especially the Urban Lion. There's no side doors. You can't run out without disturbing the production or the performance. So you are trapped in that room. And you are trapped in there until it's over. But once it's over, hopefully you'll walk away feeling a lot better about everything, because it is just a story. And so I think we can wrap ourselves up for an hour in something different, completely different from our own lives, which is so chaotic, and you can sit and have a story told to you, and it's got a beginning, a middle, and end, and all the things are resolved or unresolved. And at the end, you probably come out feeling a little bit better about yourself, and then you have to go back into the madness afterwards. So yeah, I think there's a bit more control with stories and scary plays than the scariness of reality.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us on our Modern Horror Stories podcast.
And good luck with GrimFest.
Thank you so much. Cheers. I'll speak to you guys soon. Thank you for that.